I would like to welcome you to another NACTA webinar. My name is Lorene Romero. I am the moderator for this webinar. It's this bright, sunny day in January 2018. I'd like to welcome everybody and thank you for being NACTA members. Our guest today is Tony. He is from Salmon Tours up north in Anchorage, Alaska. NACTA has been a longtime supporter of small businesses, and Salmon Tours is exactly that. It is a small, unique business that is here to support NACTA members as well as travel agents. They love working with us and give your client a unique experience. I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping before I put myself on mute. I'm going to introduce Tony in just a moment, but I want to remind everybody that you are on mute, and the reason that you're on mute is so that Tony can have a clear recording. This will be put up on the NACTA YouTube channel within the next 48 to 72 hours. So if you have any questions, we are going to have a Q&A session at the very end of his presentation. Please feel free to look at the panel that is located on the right-hand side of your screen. You may put in a question in the question box, and I am going to read the question to Tony. So for now, I am going to turn over the reins to Tony. He is the marketing manager for Salmon Tours located in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm going to put myself on mute. Tony, take it away. Let's talk about how travel agents can earn commission.
Thank you, Lorene. Hi, everyone. I know I can't hear you, but I'll just say hi. So yeah, I'm Tony Sporowski. I'm the marketing and sales manager for Salmon Tours. I've been with the company for 3 years now. I've had the pleasure of meeting quite a few of you from the NACTA conference and from doing some traveling around the US. Salmon I'll do some general information about Salmon before we go into the main topic of commissionable land-based adventures for your FITs. So this is going to be an overview of our presentation here, if you want to reference that. So Salmon Travel and Tours LLC, that's our team right there. Candace is wearing a pink vest and a gray and green hat, and then Mandy's wearing a black vest and a green and pink hat. Those are the owners of Salmon. So Candace started the company about 13 years ago, and then Mandy purchased into the company as co-owner about 3 years ago. I myself am at the very end on the left in the gray hoodie and the black vest, and that's the rest of our team right there. We have grown a bit, and so there's a few more people on our team and then a few different faces than what you see there, but that's from our last retreat. So Salmon Tours, we're a local company here in Alaska. We're based out of Anchorage. We are open year-round, which is pretty unique to Alaska. So we offer tours in the summertime, in the wintertime. Our nice little slogan is Alaska is always in season. And we really do mean that. Whether or not you come to Alaska on a cruise or by the air, typically guests do want to come back in the wintertime and experience what it's like. So we're all local Alaskans. If we weren't born here, we've lived here for quite a few years, which is really amazing for our team that we can say that. So our tour guides, our office staff, we all live here year round. Most Alaskans are snowbirds, where they fly away to the warmer climates like California or Hawaii to winterize, but we remain here. We tough it out. So we specialize in fully guided day tours. In the summertime, our office is based here in Anchorage, but in the wintertime, we do have a Fairbanks operation, which is new to us as of this last winter. So all of our tours are fully guided, again, local Alaskans. We offer complimentary snacks and bottled glacier water on board. All of our tours are all inclusive. So anything that you see listed on a tour description, it's included. You don't have to worry about it. The only thing the guests ever need to worry about is if they want to tip their guide or tip the pilots. So the Salmon tour guide takes care of all the meals listed. They take care of tipping the server. They take care of all admission fees. And so if we visit like the conservation center, anything like that, the guests never have to worry about being slowed down with getting an entry fee or entry ticket. We do small groups. So we own our own fleet of Sprinter vans. They hold up to 15 guests, but we take up to 12, 13, or 10 guests depending on the activity. So our cruise ship tour and transfers, which I'll go into more in depth, those are 10 guests. And that's because of the luggage space. Our dog sledding, for example, in the wintertime and in the fall takes up to 12 guests. And that is due to the sled configuration. But otherwise, we're able to take up to 13 guests, which we found is a really good ratio for the guide to guests. Other than that, we do curated travel. And so I'll go in depth about the packages for this. But curated travel is essentially the tailor-made itineraries for your FITs. Even if you have large groups, we can help with that as well. Curated travel has kind of stemmed out of us being the locals and offering these day tours. People started asking us what else they could do in Alaska, where should they go? And so being based here in Anchorage, we work with vendors all throughout the state. So no matter where your guests want to go, if they're in Juneau, if they're going up to Barrow or Nome, we can help arrange everything within Alaska. So any flights within the state, rental cars, railroad tickets, overnight accommodations. So we could do hotels, we could do cabins, we could do lodges. We don't reserve any Airbnbs, but other than that, we can help with basically anything, all activities. It's really nice. And our office is here in Anchorage, and Anchorage is really the gateway to the rest of the state. And so we like to do meet and greets in our office with guests if they're doing a curated travel package. And we could give them all the materials that they need. A nice welcome basket if you want to include that for your guests. If you want to send us a handwritten letter to include, we're here kind of on the ground helping you and your guests throughout their trip and even planning the trip as well. All right, so going into the types of travelers. So our first is going to be cruise only clients. So this is if they're starting their cruise in Seward or Whittier, or if they're ending the cruise in Seward or Whittier. This is going to be how to get your guests between that, the cruise destination, and their flight home, or from the flight to the cruise ship. So we offer two types of cruise ship tour and transfers. One is Anchorage to Whittier, and the other is Anchorage to Seward, and they're available in both directions. I forgot to put in the duration there for that, I'm sorry. So the Anchorage to Seward is 8 hours, and the Anchorage to Whittier is about 6 hours. So the highlights are very similar with a few differences, which I'll note. So again, this is going to be an all-inclusive tour. So some of the highlights are going to be, if they start here in Anchorage, we'll pick them up from their hotel. We'll help the guests put their luggage in the vehicle. We have plenty of trunk space for the suitcases. There's also plenty of overhead storage for any additional items that they have. And we secure our vans. We lock them at any destination that we go to. And so they don't ever have to worry about, the safety of their items because our vans are pretty secured. If you know that your guests have additional items, like if they're bringing a lot of suitcases, we are able to get a trailer on the back of the Sprinter van if we know in advance. Also, some people like to purchase out the van and do a private tour and transfer, and that's perfectly fine. We're very accustomed to that. If that does happen, we are able to fit more than 10 guests in the van. It's just kind of more, when we mix up the FITs into one vehicle, we like to keep that to 10. So some of the highlights are going to be the Mount Alyeska Aerial Tramway. So this tour is going from between Anchorage to either Whittier or Seward on the Turnagain Arm. The Turnagain Arm Seward Highway was voted National Geographic one of the most scenic byways in the US. And so it's a really beautiful drive between Anchorage to Girdwood. And Girdwood is where Alyeska Ski Resort is. Obviously in the summertime, it's not going to be an active ski resort, but the tram is still open. So our first destination is going to be that tram. It's a phenomenal 2,000-foot elevation ride up. The ride is pretty quick. It's about 8 minutes. So up there, they have amazing panoramic views of the Turnagain Arm. There's also some alpine glaciers that you can see. Alpine glaciers are very different than the floating glaciers that your guest will see on the cruise ship itself. So the alpine glaciers are kind of in the crevices of the mountains, and you can see several, you can see 7 actually, from the top of the tram. So there's a nice little roundhouse museum up there as well. And the roundhouse museum is really specific to the history of Girdwood. And so Girdwood is going to be Glacier City. That was the original name of it. So up there, it's a really beautiful view. We come back down from there, and then we'll have the fresh lunch in Girdwood. So the lunch for this is going to be 2 soups made daily that the guests get to choose from. There are vegetarian options that we always include, and it's going to be sourdough bread. So I know San Francisco is very proud of their sourdough bread, but here in Alaska, we are also very proud of it. From the miners that came to Alaska, sourdough was a pretty pivotal part of their diet. And so we like to pride ourselves on ours. It's really delicious. We also include a cinnamon roll on this during that lunch. We include tea, water, and coffee. Any additional items the guests are available to purchase on their own. A lot of the guests typically purchase an additional cinnamon roll to take on the cruise with them. Some cruises do not allow outside food though, so be careful with that. Our next destination after lunch is going to be the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. This is a phenomenal nonprofit. It's 200 acres of natural habitat, and they're all rescued animals from Alaska or like climates. Visiting the Conservation Center is going to be your only way for the guests to have assured wildlife. And so since they are all rescued animals in a natural habitat, it's a really cool way to view them up close and safely and be able to see these animals. Along the drive to the Conservation Center, guests typically see, obviously we can't promise, but they typically see bald eagles, they see Dall sheep, sometimes they see beluga whales along the drive, but that's never promised. So getting to the Conservation Center is going to allow them to see moose, muskox, wood bison, caribou. There are bald eagles there. There's porcupines. There's wolves. There's a lot more animals. It's all the animals that you would expect to see here in Alaska. They also do have bears, but bears are the only animals that are never promised viewing at the Conservation Center. And that's just because they could be in their caves or in their trees hiding, but they do have a really nice boardwalk that goes through it. So how our trip to the Conservation Center works is it's a 2-mile loop that we do drive through. Some guests choose to walk the entire 2 miles on their own. We drive to each new fenced off area though, and so the guests do have the ability to get back in the vehicle and then get out to view the animals. The photos from this conservation center are phenomenal. It looks like you're in the wild seeing these animals, and so it's really cool. And they also have a gift shop available. And the gift shop, I like to mention it because all the proceeds from the gift shop go back to preserving the animals in the conservation center. So being able to feed them, to get them all the necessities that they need. It's an amazing nonprofit. After this, depending on your destination, you'll have one more highlight. So if you're going to Seward, which is a bit further, it's going to be Exit Glacier. Exit Glacier became very, very popular when President Obama visited several years ago. He made a trip out to Exit Glacier, and so it's becoming a lot more popular. And so we'll go to the parking lot there, and then it's a quick leisurely walk out to a viewing of the glacier. Glacier has receded a bit, but it's still a really cool historical experience because there's mile markers showing where the glacier used to be starting from the early 1900s. And so it's a really cool thing that they've been able to track. If your destination is Whittier, then your final attraction is going to be the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel. And this is the longest straight tunnel in North America. We've actually had guests purchase this Anchorage to Whittier tour and transfer strictly to go to the Memorial Tunnel. So they went to Whittier and then came back to Anchorage, which is a bit unusual, but it's happened before. So the tunnel is really cool because the train shares it, the vehicles share it, and pedestrians share it. And so it's a one-way tunnel at a time. And so yes, your guests are also able to take the train between Anchorage and Whittier. That is possible. It does typically align with the cruises, whether it's a day cruise. And one reason that our cruise transfers are really popular is because it's getting you along the same path as the trains and the motor coaches do, but they also hit the attractions along the way, which is really important because your guests are going to be driving past them regardless. And so the fact that they're able to stop at them and go through them is really good. They're going to love that for you. And this is also commissionable. Some of the cruise companies do automatically include the motor coach as a part of the package for the cruise ships. And so you want to make sure that you unclick that before, unless your guests just do really want to take that. And that's not even commissionable to you. So kind of upselling the cruise, tour, and transfer is a good thing that I like to recommend. And so I do have some photos. Oops. There we go. So I do have some photos. So the left is going to be the conservation center. Obviously, that's a moose. And so you can see kind of the different types of viewing platforms that they have here. So most of it is going to be kind of a fenced off area, but with the moose here, there is a boardwalk that you get to walk through, similar with the bears. The bears is a bit higher of a viewing boardwalk. But so you get to get really close to the animals and have different vantage points. This photo is from behind the fence, whereas you can see guests in the background taking photos of the moose from up there. So it's a really cool experience. The middle photo on the top is going to be Mount Alyeska Aerial Tramway. So you can see some guests in there. So it's a phenomenal view, the ride up. In the wintertime, it's full of skiers and snowboarders, but in the summertime, it's going to be full of the guests that want to get those amazing views. And the bottom photo is Bird Point. So our guides do make photo stops along the way. The specific destination is never promised. Some guests like to stop at Bird Point, which is photographed below. Some want to stop at Beluga Point because they've heard about it and it's something that they really want to visit. So it's kind of up to the group, which is really cool because we don't have scripted tours. Our guides are talking into the microphone to the entire guests, and they're able to be more interactive and answer any questions and accommodate anything that the guest specifically wants to see or do. And then to the far end, I did include this cinnamon roll from the bake shop because it is delicious. I didn't include a photo of the soup just because I like the sweets the most. All right, so our next type of land-based adventure that we're going to discuss is going to be a pre or post cruise. So this is going to be an extension beyond strictly arriving into Anchorage with a flight and then taking a transfer and tour down to the cruise ship. This is going to be extending the trip to going beyond just the cruise or beyond Anchorage itself. And so for this example, I'm going to include a pretty popular trip that guests like to do. So day one is going to be flying into Fairbanks. Fairbanks does have a very large international airport. It's not as big as Anchorage, but some people are always afraid. I'm going to Fairbanks. I don't know what to expect. It's smaller than Anchorage, but it's still fully capable of accommodating your guests and what they need. So arriving into Fairbanks and then taking a shuttle from the airport to the hotel. So that's something that we like to include in all of the packages, and making sure that your guests don't have to worry about getting a lot of transit on their own. There are cabs available, there are car service available, such as Uber and Lyft, but having that assured shuttle service is really comforting to the guests. And so the hotel that we use is going to be located in downtown Fairbanks. It's actually along the riverfront right there, within walking distance of a lot of local eateries, local shops. One thing to note, Fairbanks does have sales tax. Anchorage does not. So typically I like to recommend that the guests purchase any tchotchkes or gifts to take back home, purchase it here in Anchorage because we don't have sales tax. There's also really good local arts up in Fairbanks. So they have some amazing museums. The Museum of the North. The Visitor Center is actually a really phenomenal museum. There's a ice museum downtown in Fairbanks in the summertime. And so it's a really cool place to walk around and explore. And so on day two, after continental breakfast, we're going to take the train between Fairbanks to Denali. The train is amazing. If you've never ridden the train here in Alaska, it's an experience I recommend to everyone. And so how it works is there's two different types of services available on the railroad. So the first is going to be your adventure class. Adventure class is going to be the lower level seating. And so the seats are a bit smaller. It's going to be tall windows, and then your viewing platform is going to be upper level glass dome viewing platform. So that's where the guests can kind of walk in between their seats to go up there to view. It does not include meals, but there are meals available for purchase on board. But we recommend your guests go Gold Star service. Gold Star service is going to be upper level seating. The seats are a bit bigger, they're a bit more comfortable. It's really cool because the viewing platform is going to be open air, so there's no windows, which is really important for your photographer guests, because even in the glass dome, you'll get a bit of a glare in your photos. And so having that open air, no window is just a really cool experience. The train with the wind blowing through your hair, it's really, really nice. And so the train itself only goes 35 miles per hour, so it is pretty scenic. That train departs at a bit earlier in the day, 8:15 a.m., but it's really nice going that early because it slows down for wildlife. And the earlier in the day, the more active the wildlife are, which is something really nice. And then the Gold Star service also includes all meals. So depending on which train service you do, if it's all day, it'll include all your meals. Some, include just breakfast, depending where you get off. Some just include lunch. So how it works is there's a dining car. And so all of the Gold Star guests get to receive seats in the dining car. If you ride adventure class, it's never promised. So that's something to note to your guests as well. And so the breakfast and the dinner and the lunch, they're all made on board. They're really great meals. There's also 2 adult beverages included per Gold Star service guest. So if they want to get their morning mimosa or morning Bloody Mary, they also have local beers on board. And so each guest gets 2 adult beverages included. And what's also really nice about staying up in Gold Star is that you have the narrator up there with you. Their narrators are typically high school students that have gone through some extensive training, but it's really fun sitting up there with them, so you get to interact with them. Similar to like our day tours, having that personal connection and speaking with them is really a nice experience. So arriving into Denali National Park, staying at the park entrance is the most typical way to visit Denali. Something to note, you can't see the mountain from the park entrance. You really need to get in the park to see it. But staying at the park entrance, we have 2 type of accommodations that we like to use, the Bluffs and the Grand Denali. They do offer shuttle service. So you arrive in the train depot out in Denali, and then you take the shuttle to either the Bluffs or the Grand, which is a bit higher, offering better views. These properties don't include breakfast. None of the properties in the park entrance do. So we typically include breakfast vouchers for your guests. If you know that they're a bit on a budget, or if that's something they don't necessarily need, we don't have to include that. So if you're ever requesting an itinerary and there's things that you already know about the guests, just let us know in advance. And so on the first day in Denali, I like to include a dinner theater. It's a really fun activity for your guests to do. And they do have a lot of free time arriving into Denali on their first day. And so doing the dinner theater, they would then take a shuttle, which is available once you purchase the dinner theater, from their lodge back down to the main park entrance where the train depot is, where all the shops are. And doing the dinner theater, it's a historic dinner theater, but it's fun because they're interactive with the crowd. And so the actors are there walking through the crowd, bringing people up on stage. And so it's a really fun first thing to do. On day 2, this is when the Denali experience begins. And so this trip, the bus tour, begins at 6 a.m., which is really early, I know. Some guests do not want to do that, but as I mentioned earlier, you want to go earlier in the day because the wildlife are a lot more active. They're exploring the grounds a lot more, and so you have a better chance of viewing them. There's the big 5, the animals that most guests know of in Denali that they really, really, really want to see. There's the moose, the bears, the Dall sheep, the caribou, and then there's eagles in the area as well. And so there's the big 5 animals that they want to see. So going earlier is recommended. The bus themselves, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you. There are only school buses allowed into the park. There's no way around that. Public vehicles are allowed 15 miles into the park. After that, it's only the school buses. So they are refurbished. So they're slightly more comfortable. but they are school buses. And so if you do the full day experience, which gets you to 1:92, which is literally the end of the road in Denali National Park, it's a bit more comfortable. The seats are a bit cushionier, a bit bigger, and so it's slightly more comfortable. And they are fully narrated if you do a fully guided bus tour. There are the hiking shuttles, but I do not recommend putting your guests on the hiking shuttle because the seats are never promised. So if they're going out there to hike, they can hop on, hop off type of situation. But if it's raining and the bus is full, your guests will be waiting out in the open, waiting for the next bus. So that's something to note. But the bus is a really cool thing. And so what it has is there's a telescope which projects onto the TV. So if there are animals off in the distance, your guests will still be able to see the animals on the TV screen. It does make stops along the way. And so it's typically where like the hikers would get off, but there is time for your guests to stretch their legs, use the restrooms, get some really amazing photos. And then as we venture further into the park, you're getting better and better views of the mountain itself. So Mount McKinley is what it was formerly known as, but us Alaskans always refer to it as Mount Denali. It's the tallest peak in North America, and so your guests want to get that amazing view by going into the park. And so we visit some visitor centers along the way. The only way to visit the visitor centers is doing the full day tour. If you do the 8-hour tour or if you do the 4-hour tour, you're not going to be able to see the visitor centers, which has a lot more information, infographics, things found in the park. And so they want to do this full tour. And then getting to the very back of the park, we are now allowing them to stay there. So they can do some overnight inside Denali National Park. It's a bit pricier. Per person night stay is about the same as a park entrance room stay. So it's about $500 per person per night with a 2-night minimum, whereas staying at the park entrance is about $400 per room per night. But what's really nice about staying in the back of the park is it includes your bus tour to get there. So your guests are going to be doing the bus tour regardless. So if they can, afford to have the experience in the back of the park, I always recommend it. And it's going to include all of the meals. It's going to include all the activities as well. So they have a variety of activities your guests can do. There's going to be fly fishing, there's hiking, there's biking tours, there's sled dog presentations. And so staying there for 2 to 3 nights, there's plenty to do. It's a really nice way for your guests to disconnect from the world. They do have Wi-Fi, but you don't have to turn it on. So it's a really nice way to kind of really experience Alaska, because Alaska is the last frontier, and a lot of people want to visit it as a bucket list item because it's the classic America. It's remote. It's wild. So staying in the back of the park offers all of that. Now, to get back from the park to the park entrance, you can take the bus back, but what we recommend is doing a flight. It's a lot quicker, and it'll get you to the train on time. Obviously, if it's weathered, we're able to help with that. So being here in Alaska on the grounds, we'll know if it's weathered. So we can be pretty proactive about that. But so how it is, it's a 55-minute flight versus the 13-hour bus ride. So the 55-minute flight will pick up your guests at the back of the road there, and then make a really scenic flight to the park entrance. So they'll get some amazing views of the mountain. They'll get hopefully some wildlife viewing, either additional, or if they didn't get to see it on the bus, they'll get to see it from the plane. And then they'll take the pilot company has a transfer that they'll take you to the train depot. And then again, getting on the train from your ride from Denali into Anchorage. It is a late arrival time into Anchorage. It's about 8 p.m. But riding that Gold Star service, it's going to include your meals, and so your guests are going to be really comfortable on the train. Getting into Anchorage, the train depot is located on the edge of downtown, so they will need to take a taxi or a car service or a Salmon train depot to hotel transfer. You can walk it. I personally would not walk it, especially if I had luggage. But it's not too far away. But 8 p.m. the light will still be out here in Alaska. We're the land of the midnight sun in the summertime and the land of the northern lights in the wintertime. Meaning that we're limited on daylight in the wintertime. But so once they get into Anchorage, they'll have, if they want to have a late dinner, they can. I always recommend staying downtown Anchorage just because, similar to Fairbanks, it's walkable. They can go to the Tony Knowles Coastal Trail. They can go to local shops. They can go to eateries. If you stay by the airport, that's convenient to get to the airplane. But if they're going to be going out on the cruise ship now, or if they're doing this package in reverse, staying downtown is going to be central for them. And the Anchorage Museum is downtown. We could take them to the Heritage Center if they want to extend this trip. There's this is fully customizable. This is just a package that we have listed on our website. It's going to be the Experience Denali package. So if you're not familiar with our website, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's an amazing resource for ideas and starting points for what to sell your clients. And this is going to be fully customizable if they want. This is just kind of a set package that we have listed on our website. And then I do have some photos I would like to show. So this is what the experience is of Denali. And so the far left are two different buses you'll see. The brown bus goes to the end of the park, so mile 92. That's what your guests would stay if they do an overnight at the back of the park. The green shuttles are going to be your quicker day trips. So this photo is a best case scenario. They're going to see the sow and the cub running across the road. Obviously, we can't promise that, but I want to show this photo because it really shows what the bus experience is, and it really shows what a really good day in Denali can be. The middle top photo is going to be the Gold Star service experience, and so that's the open air, the no window viewing platform. You can see the front of the train off in the distance, but you can see how happy they are. I mean, I've ridden the train in the summertime, in the wintertime. It's a phenomenal experience. I recommend it. The bottom photo is going to be the lodge that they stay at if they remain at the back of the park. So this is the main dining area and activity area. They could do cabins if they want to stay in the park. It's a really amazing experience. And then the edge photo, on the other hand, is going to be Mount Denali itself, and then the road. So you can see it's extremely expansive. That stop right there is going to be a photo stop that they make along the way to get that photo. A lot of the buses do stop there. It gets a bit crowded. But yeah, so this is a really cool experience that I recommend to everyone. Denali is a really, again, a bucket list item with Alaska itself. They kind of go hand in hand. So this is one way to do it. The next type of package I would like to talk about is going to be a fly drive. So there's different ways to go about this. This is if they're not necessarily going to be taking your cruise, if they're going to drive up to Alaska through Canada, if they're going to fly in and out of Alaska. This package that I wanted to highlight is going to be a winter package, which I know is a bit scary, especially for first-time travelers to Alaska. But winter means a lot to us, especially here at Salmonberry. We were the first day tour company to do winter tours out of Anchorage. We've really pioneered it. We've brought along a lot of local vendors to kind of start offering winter tours as well. And so it's growing. There's more options for your guests to do throughout the winter time. But so one package that I want to highlight is going to be our Northern Lights package. This package was actually just featured on Travel and Leisure. It's been featured in Sunset Magazine as well last winter. So it's really popular. We have a package that starts in Anchorage, ends in Fairbanks, and then we also have one that begins in Fairbanks and ends in Anchorage. This package does sell out, especially during the holidays. So we do offer customized versions as well. But going into this one, arriving into Anchorage, this is going to be, again, the gateway to Alaska. It's the largest airport in Alaska, the Ted Stevens International Airport. They're super easy to navigate, even though it is a large airport. If you were here for the NACTA conference, you experienced that. And so arriving into Anchorage on that first day and then getting to your hotel that's downtown. If your clients need that shuttle service, we can arrange that through Salmonberry, but none of the hotels here in downtown Anchorage offer shuttle service. And we just really, really think it's important to stay downtown for that full Anchorage experience. But so day 2 is going to be when they start the Northern Lights overnight program that we offer. And all of your guests that arrive in wintertime, they receive a basket that we have in their hotel room waiting for them, which is really nice. It includes some survival items that they may need along their way. If they, there's some tissues, there's some hand warmers, there's some hot cups that say Salmonberry on them that are reusable. It's just a bunch of gifts in there, some Alaska items, which is really nice. And so they'll, in their itinerary, which will be printed out in there, but on day 2, when they really start their winter adventures, they'll understand why they have it. So we'll start here in Anchorage and head north to Willow to do some dog sledding. So we actually have an exclusive partnership with Dallas CV, who's won the Iditarod 4 times. His father has won the Iditarod. His grandfather helped start it. And so we have an exclusive partnership with him, which is really nice. His homestead is a beautiful property. He's a representative for Young Essential Oils. And so he has a really holistic approach to his dogs. And going to his homestead and getting a kennel experience really shows what dog sledding means to Alaska and to Alaskans. And so they get to meet puppies. They get to meet all 90 dogs. There's a yurt out there, and so the yurt is going to be kind of your warming yurt. And so we have some memorabilia from the Iditarod in there, a trail map, and so it's going to be for them to learn about that. Then the dog sledding itself is going to be an hour-long experience. So how it works is one guest sits in the front of the sled with the dogs pulling along, and then the musher will be standing behind them, guiding the dogs. They are Iditarod racing dogs, and so we do require a musher on these tours. And then behind that musher is going to be what they call a whip sled or a flash sled. And that's where the second guest is going to be standing. So we ride for about 30 minutes, and then we stop for a photo opportunity. On a clear day, you can see Mount Denali. Obviously, we don't promise that, but if it's a clear day up for the mountain, it's a phenomenal view that your guests will have an opportunity to take a photo with. And then typically guests swap who's sitting, who's standing, and then continue on for 30 additional minutes to complete the loop and then go back to the homestead. And so they can then warm up there. And then continuing northbound, we're going to drive a bit further to Talkeetna. Talkeetna is a very, very popular destination in the summertime and in the wintertime. If you've ever seen the TV show Northern Exposure, it was based on Talkeetna. It's a very quirky, artistic town. They have really good food, really good beer. Their mayor's a cat, so they're pretty famous for that. But visiting it in the wintertime is a completely different experience than visiting it in the summertime. In the summertime, a lot of the cruise ship clients, so the train stops there all between Anchorage and Denali, and so it's kind of an influx of all the cruise ship clients there. It does get a bit crowded for 30 minutes while the train's waiting. So in the summertime, it's really cool because it's locals, which is something that Salmonberry really loves to highlight, is locals. Everywhere we go, we're part of the community. We want our guests to feel like they're also a part of the community. So traveling with us kind of assures that. So we're actually going to stay at the Talkeetna Roadhouse, which is a very historic property. It's 100 years old. It's where the backpackers and the climbers that attempt to summit the mountain, that's where they base themselves out of. Obviously in the spring and summertime is when that happens. But it's a really cool spot. And so if it's going to be shared baths, and so if your guests, if you know that they want a private bathroom, there is upgrade available options to get their own cabin with their own bathroom in there. But so they'll have some free time before dinner, and then we'll do an Aurora presentation with a local star lady. She'll tell them the science behind the lights, why we see the northern lights. It's a really cool experience to hear, the science and from a local perspective. She prints out, so we tell her in advance where all of the guests are from, and she prints out specific information about the astrology for the location of where the guests are from. And then after her presentation, we put on some snowshoes and then go out looking for the northern lights. So we'll drive a bit further out of town and then snowshoe around. The snowshoes are included. We bring those along. We also bring micro spikes to put on the boots in case it is a bit icy. We also bring back mittens. But if you know that your guests are going to be unprepared for the colder climate that we have up here, we also offer gear rentals. So it's a gear rental program that we started 2 winters ago, and we've kept it because it has been in such high demand. And so we supply the boots, we supply the snow pants, the parkas, the proper types of gloves, which are going to be, the finger gloves that are inside mittens. We also supply the balaclavas, which is kind of the face masks. if your guests want to purchase, so these are items that your guests would return at the end of their trip. But if they want to purchase a layer that they keep, that's going to be the base layer. And so it's going to be the long johns, the thermals, and then your guests get to keep the wool socks as well. It's a really nice thing that your guests don't have to worry about. We put it in a duffel bag that they have in the hotel waiting for them. So yeah, so it's a really nice experience because getting into Anchorage, our weather is a bit warmer, but once you get to Talkeetna, once you get to Fairbanks, it could be a lot colder. It could be below 0 most days in the wintertime. So they really want that gear, especially when they're in Fairbanks. And so after Northern Lights viewing, which typically those activities happen from about 10 p.m. to about 3 a.m. is when they get back to their hotel room for any Aurora tour they do, whether it's in Anchorage or based out of Fairbanks. That's the time the lights are out. And so they'll get to rest before waking up for a family-style breakfast, which is at the Roadhouse. It was featured on the Travel Channel and Food Network. Their meals are delicious. And then after that, the guests get on the train to ride from Talkeetna to Fairbanks. In the wintertime, the train only operates between Anchorage and Fairbanks, so that southbound train between Anchorage and Whittier or Anchorage and Seward does not exist. They don't offer Gold Star in the wintertime. And so there are meals available on board, but we do typically like to include a box lunch for the guests to take on board with them. Just makes everything easier. So once they're in Fairbanks, they'll have that shuttle service between the hotel and the train depot. Some meals are going to be on their own, but they get to do some really, really unique experiences to Fairbanks, such as the Arctic Circle. The Arctic Circle, we have the same latitude as the Iceland area, so a lot of the same reasons guests want to go there is why they would want to come into Alaska. Cross the Arctic Circle, get a certificate, get a photo with the sign. It's seeing rural Alaska, the ice road truckers. If you've seen that show, doing an Arctic Circle program lets you experience that, which is something really cool. We include some private evening Aurora tours on this package. And depending what package you do, whether you start in Anchorage or start in Fairbanks, they're slightly different, but they're very similar. And so we have some partnerships with local viewing facilities up there where we get exclusive access. And during these tours, we like to include some fresh baked treats, some additional beverages, non-alcoholic. But if your guests want to bring a bottle of wine, say, or if someone's going to propose under the Northern Lights, which we have had, they can bring some champagne and do that. And we also include activities because we wanted it to be more than just a shuttle out to hopefully see the lights. It's going to be a full experience that includes activities, that includes scientific talks, and what the Northern Lights meant to the Alaska Native, things like that. Another really cool destination we go to is Chena Hot Springs, which is open year-round. Your guests can go there any time of the year. If they visit in the summer, they can go there. But visiting in the winter is a completely different experience. It's really cool because you could be sitting in the hot spring, your hair is frozen because it's about -20. And so it's a really cool experience. But they also have the Ice Museum there. So the Ice Museum, also they don't have to worry about running between the hot spring to the warm spot. There is like a little tunnel that they get to go through. They're not just going to be freezing the entire time. But the Ice Museum is really cool. It's a temperatured facility. It's open year-round. But they do have a bar inside. It seems to be a theme. There's a bar inside where they can purchase apple teeny that's in a glass made out of ice. They can see all of the ice structures. It's a really beautiful lit up facility that they get to go through. This tour includes dinner. So we have a Alaska fish, whether it's halibut or salmon. And the produce is amazing. The produce is actually grown at Chena itself. So the gentleman that built Chena Hot Springs Resort, he has really amazing geothermal energy that he reuses. He has an amazing greenhouse, and so he pulls a lot of the vegetables there. So it is really farm to table dinner, which is really cool. And then the hotel in Fairbanks, as I mentioned earlier, includes continental breakfast. Your guests don't have to worry about that. Some of the stores are closed in Fairbanks during winter time, but if they want to go to Santa Claus House, we can include that. If they want to visit the museums, that's fully available. It's a really cool experience, and they get to fly home from Fairbanks. And so the Fly Drive program, I just wanted to highlight winter. Hopefully your guests are willing to do it. I think it's definitely worth it. But all of our, if they want to arrive into Anchorage, or if they want to arrive into Fairbanks, and then visit whatever destination. Just call us and ask us for insight. We can get them to Valdez if they want, which is a pretty big destination. They can ride on the ferry to get there. If they want to go out to Seward, whatever your guests want, we can help accommodate that with you. And so I do have some photos for this package I'd like to show. Ooh, I'm sure that's what everyone's saying right now. So to the far left, that's a photo of Dallas CV doing a dog mushing tour. We can't promise that he's always there. Sometimes he treats our guests and is there, which is really fun. But you get to see the dogs. They're Alaskan Huskies, so they're not your typical dog that you expect to see. They're not the Siberian Husky in Balto. They're Alaskan Huskies, but that's the meadow out there that they ride on, and it's really cool riding out the meadow out there because there are other mushers that use it, and so you're zooming past zooming. It goes 6 miles per hour, but you're mushing past other mushers on a trail, which is a really cool experience. That top photo is a really good photo of the aurora, the stars. It's a really amazing experience. They get to see the reflection on the river sometimes. Obviously, the lights are never promised. That's why we do have 3 nights of aurora viewing, because if you do 3 nights of aurora viewing in Alaska, your chances of seeing lights are up to 80%, which are good odds. Some guests don't get to see the lights that strong, but it's just a real experience that hopefully your guests get to experience. And on the bottom, that's going to be Chena in the winter. So yep, that's a hot spring. You can see the tunnel up there that gets your guests between the facility and the hot spring. And all those guests look pretty happy to me. And then that's a photo of the train. And so this is going to be the same train ride that they ride in summertime to get to Denali. But you can see here in the winter, it's a completely different experience visually than they would experience in the summertime. And so it's really beautiful, and I recommend coming in the winter. The last trip that I would like to talk about is going to be a self-drive program. And so this is for your very, very independent travelers. The first 2 type of itineraries I talked about are going to be, they're either doing the cruise ship or they're semi-independent. They're wanting to kind of break up day trips on their own, getting either on the train or taking a private shuttle between locations. This is going to be extremely independent. So it's going to be a rental car. So for this one, I have the guests beginning in Anchorage. Being a local Anchorage person, I truly believe it's a gateway to the rest of the state. It's super easy to navigate from here to get far north, or as far south as the end of the road, Seward. But for this, I wanted to highlight a fishing itinerary. We do get a lot of fishing requests, and so this one kind of highlights that. And so starting in Anchorage, we're going to do a meet and greet, and the purpose of the meet and greet is to really familiarize your guests with Alaska. And so they can come to your office, and then we'll do a private meet and greet with them. We'll supply them with a printed out copy of their itinerary. We'll go day by day. We'll give them driving instructions. We actually supply them with a book. It's called A Milepost. It's kind of the Bible of driving through or to Alaska. So it mentions where the last gas station is on the highway. It mentions certain attractions they want to see. So before the meeting, we kind of dog ear along their way that they'll be going, whether they're going to Valdez or if they're driving up on the Dalton Highway, things like that in the summertime. And so we explain the highways here. We only have 2 from Anchorage. One goes north, one goes south. It follows the railroad system pretty closely. But kind of explaining, the importance of driving within the speed limit. Our speed limit is only 65 here on the highway, and that's for a reason. We explain that they must have their lights on at all times on the highways. That's the law. And so it's really, it's a really nice informative meet and greet, and they get to meet some local Alaskans before going out and adventuring. And then we can kind of vet their gear. So if they brought some gear and they want to double check with us, make sure it's right before they go out to their fishing trip or they go out to their, Katmai National Park, Lake Clark, bear viewing trip. If they kind of want to vet what they have, so they can purchase some items in Anchorage before heading on the road. And so with that, they're going to want to visit some local shops here. So Fred Meyer, we have Safeway here, but it's locally owned cars. And this is where they can get their fishing license, which they do need to get in advance before any fishing trips. They can either purchase a day fishing license and go fishing out in Ship Creek, which is downtown. Anchor is very unique in that we offer salmon fishing. You can take a lunch break from the office and head down there and catch some fish, which is really cool. So they could do something as simple as a day fishing pass, or they can get a week-long fishing license. And so depending on how many days they're doing what they're doing, also want to purchase any groceries that they need, bug spray. People always ask me about the mosquitoes here in Alaska. They are a bit bigger. They're a state bird. Ha ha ha, just kidding. The ptarmigan's their state bird. But so they get to, they purchase any items like that. And then starting here in Anchorage, they're going to drive south to Homer. They'll pass Girdwood, they'll pass Whittier. They won't necessarily pass Seward. It slightly deviates off. But getting down to the Kenai Peninsula, it's really, really popular for halibut. The train doesn't go there, and so you need a rental car to visit this location. It's a local favorite. I absolutely love it. There's a little winery down there. It's really artistic. It's a fun community to visit. Some highlights along the way, they can go to the conservation center on their own if they want to. They can go to Girdwood on their own if they want to for the tram. They can stop in Cooper Landing, which is the most pristine, beautiful emerald colored water I've ever seen in my life. And so there's a lot of photo stops along the way. They don't have the luxury of having a narrated drive, but it's really cool experience for the family to do. We always recommend getting a mid-size car regardless, mid-size or larger. Jeeps, Subarus, anything bigger. That's what we recommend for these drives. And we always mention where to fuel up as well. But getting to Homer, it's a very welcoming community. And so they have a few type of accommodations they could stay at. They could stay at some hotels. They're not going to be like a full hotel experience. It's going to be kind of more, I don't want to say a motel experience, but it's going to be, along those lines. Or they can stay at bed and breakfasts, which are really nice. Or they can even stay at yurts. If your guests want to sleep in a yurt, that is doable in Homer, which is a really cool thing to do. And so so this trip includes staying on in Homer itself and kind of getting out. And so staying on in the Homer city limits itself is really cool because you get to do go down to the docks and do belly up biology, which is learning about the fish and the inhabitants. You get to see sea urchins, things like that. They can go on some hiking. They can go to the winery. They can even stay at the winery if your guests want to. They have 2 rooms out at the winery, and that includes a bottle of wine. Which is really nice for the guests. They can go to the local brewery. They can go have some really amazing oysters. My favorite oysters come from Homer here in Alaska. And then they could do their fishing trips. So each year they say you can't catch halibut on these days. I believe this summer it's going to be Wednesdays. I haven't had a final word yet. So we always make sure to plan these itineraries accommodating the certain laws here in Alaska. So they can catch halibut, they can catch rockfish. There's a few other fish they can catch as well. But it's a really cool experience. It's going to be getting out on a boat with the captain and going out. If they're wanting to do like a raft and fish or just fly fishing, I would recommend having them go to Cooper Landing for a more intimate experience. But going out on the boat is a really fun thing to do. And then they can fillet it once they get back. We could do a salmon bake if they want to have the fish prepared for them, or it can be preserved. And the Anchorage Airport is unique in that they have a giant freezer just full of any items that visitors or locals have caught and are wanting to then ship home. So once they check back in at the airport, they can have that mailed home, which is pretty cool. But then, so I also included in the self-drive package a really cool experience. I'm starting in Anchorage, starting in Homer and taking a water taxi out to a remote lodge. There's 2 wilderness lodges out of Homer that I definitely recommend. They're going to be luxury, high-end, all-inclusive. So it includes the meals. If they want to do some bear viewing, that's typically going to be an additional fee, but they can do some amazing bear viewing in the area. If your guests are wanting to fly out to Lake Clark or fly out to Katmai National Park, they're able to do that. Katmai National Park is going to be the pivotal viewing experience of bears. It's what you see on National Geographic of the bears catching the jumping salmon out of the waterfall. And so doing fly-out bear viewing trips from Homer is a really cool experience. You can also do it out of Anchorage. It's just a bit quicker to do it from there, or from Soldotna, which is along the highway between Anchorage and Homer. The staying at the lodges are really amazing. They're world renowned. One of the chefs at one of the lodges travels internationally doing cooking competitions, and so I can assure you the food is amazing. There is really amazing hiking in the area. It's very lush, it's very beautiful, and then doing any other activities they want to do. That's going to Homer is going to be just living like a local, in whatever way that means. Whether it's roughing it in a yurt or going to a high-end lodge. And so we typically recommend 2 nights out there. Your guests can do a bit fewer if they want out at the lodge, but I recommend doing 2 nights and then coming back, and then yes, the rental car will be waiting for them, and they would pick up the rental car and then return to Anchorage, visiting any attractions along the way, and then flying home. And again, this is customizable. If they want to take a ferry out to somewhere, to wherever, if they want to do that, if they want to extend this, so they're also going to Denali. We've had guests that have completely started in Fairbanks, got in a rental car, and then drove all the way from Fairbanks all the way down to Homer, and then back up to Seward, and then back up to Anchorage. It's really flexible. It's what your guests want to experience. So when you first contact us, we kind of ask what your guest wish list is, and then base the package. Like, all right, this is a self-drive guest, or this is going to be a cruise ship client that needs this. We really meet what your guest really wants. And I have some photos to show you for this package. Oh, they're a bit blurry. So that left image is going to be Katmai National Park. So Katmai National Park, how it works is you're going to take a bush plane out to the area. The bush planes, they're local Alaskan pilots. It's really cool just hearing their stories of flying through, the Alaska Range, flying through Talkeetna Mountain Range. It's just, they have phenomenal stories. And then getting out there, how it works is you get to Katmai National Park, you get a bear orientation by the National Park Rangers, and then you get to go out and explore the area, do the boardwalk. And then we have some fishing trips there. We have the beautiful Tutka Bay Lodge, which is the remote lodge that you would water taxi out, and that's just a photo of the drive between Anchorage and Homer. And then, so working with Salmonberry, this is how you get your commission. You want to become an affiliate. So you go to our website, top hand corner, I'll go over that here in a bit. But so you want to become an affiliate to book your day tours on your own if you want. And then after your guests travel, our bookkeeper Coco will send you a commission check. You're going to want that commission check is going to be sent to where it needs to be processed. And then if you want to request itineraries, we can have all your information there if you sign up as an affiliate, which is really nice. Chat with us, send us emails to reservations@Salmonberry Tours, or give us a quick call, 907-278-3572. We're open daily. Right now we're 8:30 to 4:30. When your guests are traveling, we do have a 24-hour hotline that they can call. So we'll call them back during their trip. Or you can do that submission form there, or even chat. We have live chat on our website. I am typically the one in there on chat during the weekdays, so you might get me, you might get Brandon. It's typically us two in there. If we're busy chatting other people, it'll get an away message and it sends us an email. So this is just kind of a walkthrough of signing up as an affiliate on our website if you haven't already. So that first screenshot up top is the homepage to our website. So clicking on Alaska Tours gets you to day tours or curated packages. Clicking on About Us gets an introduction to the team. Our blog, we try to keep that up with specific blogs like the Iditarod or what to wear in Alaska. But the top button where it says Travel Trade, you're going to want to click that. And then it's going to take you to that photo, that bottom left-hand photo. This is where you're either going to log in to then check live availability or sign up. And then that's a photo of what it looks like to sign up. And I believe I'm running out of time. So I just want to say that we appreciate all of you. This is one of the FAMs that we were able to host during the NACTA conference last year. I'm the one that took the photo, so I'm not in it. But I just want to say thank you. Please contact us for any questions that you have, and I will let Lorene take over.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Sorry about, I'm texting in the background going, gotta go. So sorry about that, Tony. You were doing a great job. Excellent explanations. Just, we're not going to have time for Q&A now. So what I'm recommending for people is take a look at their website. And remember, everything's customizable. So when you look at the website and you see a tour, don't feel, well, I need to add an extra day on that. I guess I can't do it. Or I need a day shorter. I can't do it. These are packages I put together that work well for people. It's a great staff, very knowledgeable. I recommend for all of your clients, if they're doing north or southbound cruises, add on some extra days. You want your clients to enjoy being in their time in Alaska. It's a huge state. If you take the state of Alaska and put it on top of the lower 48, it pretty much covers top to bottom and all the sides. So if you can get a perspective of the size difference, you'll let your clients know you're not going to be driving from Anchorage to check out Denali and then back down in one day. It's not going to work that day. So, Tony, once again, what's a good website for everybody to go to?
www.salmonberrytours.com.
And a phone number for everybody to call if they have questions?
907-278-3572.
Excellent. And go to, what is there a specific site for your travel trade? Is there a link on your page, or just go to the bottom and look for travel trade?
So yeah, it's going to be at the top, and you'll click travel trade up there. The reservation system we use is PonoRes, which is based out of Hawaii. So a lot of you have already actually signed up through there. So if you know that you use PonoRes, you already have a user login. And so you can check live availability that way for our day tours.
Excellent, excellent. You'll enjoy everything that they do. They make it totally out of the box different. It's customizable. Their staff is amazing. And you want to remember, the main difference is you're going to get a unique experience for your clients, and you're going to look like a total rock star travel agent. So their job is to make you happy. Your job is to make your clients happy. So thank you again, Tony. We are recording this, so I will put it up on the NACTA YouTube site in the next couple of days. And if you have any further questions, don't forget to check out their website. Give them a chance. Give them a call. They'll do right by you. All right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody who's on the call, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Oh, God.